Hello, I'm Carol Bower and welcome to my presentation on using video in learning.
I guess the first thing to look at is the popularity of video. So if you take YouTube with 1 billion users per month and over 6 billion hours being watched per month and 100 hours of video being uploaded per minute, clearly there's no doubt about the popularity of video as a delivery medium. So what about the popularity and usage of video within a learning solution? Well, the Towards Maturity benchmark certainly shows that it is a popular way to deliver learning options, with shorter, sharper learning content being made available for learning audiences. One of the reasons for the slight decline between 2010 and 2013 in the use of video within a learning solution probably has a lot to do with the availability of other content, or other video content that exists already. So we're talking here about off-the-shelf content, we're talking about content that you can find readily available via YouTube, for example, or TED Talks, or even just sort of subject-specific content that exists on various specialist sites, and even user-generated content. So all of this now comes part of the mix as a curation blend that provides best practice as part of a learning solution. So why think about using video as part of the learning mix? Well, clearly one of the things that most people think about is it's a really entertaining way of getting a message across. It's also agile, which means you can respond to changes really quickly. You can get learning out to your audience really quickly using video as a device. It'll also run on different platforms. It's memorable. You remember a really good video. And it's also multi-sensory, so that the whole impact of the piece is really felt when you can appeal to all of the senses. There are, of course, some objections when people start thinking about using video within a learning mix. The first one being how easy is it to adapt? Can we reuse it across different learning programs? The cost can be quite prohibitive, especially if you're thinking about a professional shoot. Translation is something that comes up a lot. If a program is going to be rolled out globally, can we use video files across a global audience? And how easy is it to maintain? If we need to make changes to that video, is that again going to be quite costly? What about tracking? How can we track that users have actually viewed a video? And the size of the files sometimes can be quite restrictive, especially with low bandwidth challenges within some organisations. So there are ways of overcoming some of these objections. The first one being using swappable files. So for example, you might decide that you design your solution so that you can swap specific files out so that the learning content is relevant for a regional audience. If you're worried about reuse, for example, you could be thinking about a solution such as subtitling your video files. And this doesn't have to be done in the studio itself where you create the video. It could be done post-production, something that you create afterwards. And a low-cost option might be user-generated content, where users can share their views with their peers. And this peer-to-peer learning, examples of this can be seen everywhere, such as in YouTube, but a great way to provide an extra dimension to the learning mix. In this example, in fact, a video wall was actually created for that purpose, so that users could upload their content into that space. Another low-cost option, and with a bit more control than user-generated content, is the Vox Pops approach, where using an interview you gain different peer perspectives and include them within a program. And maintenance was another objection that I highlighted earlier, and it may be that a design solution can help to overcome maintenance issues, such as using audio files or captions. Clearly audio files are easier to swap out than a video piece, and captions are easier to edit. Another example of using that audio-based approach is by using an unusual shot. So for example, in this example, using shots of feet means that we can overlay an audio dialogue piece and give the impression that it's actually from the characters in the audio, but it still makes it easy to edit after the event. So now I just wanted to share a few different video-based approaches. The first approach is drawing on glass, where the mentor draws on glass to give the appearance that they are drawing on the learner's screen. In this example, the learner is actually invited to interact with the screen. A common approach is to use green screen, so actors are actually filmed against a green screen in the studio, and then that footage can be taken and the background can be swapped out with other visuals such as an office background, or maybe even different brands can be represented without having to reshoot the video sequence. And if you haven't got the luxury of a green screen, you could use a white screen. So the idea here is that you shoot the actors against a white screen, and as long as your background is white, you can give the same impression. So clearly those couple of examples that I just showed you are examples of productions at the higher end of the scale. The idea is that, you know, these green screen characters can be used in a number of different ways. So in this first example, the green screen character actually walks through the environment. In this next example, the character actually interacts with the objects on screen. And in the final example, images are used to convey some of the key messages that the actor is presenting. I guess it's worth saying that just because you use professional actors and you do your shoot in a studio doesn't mean that the learning is going to be any more effective. This is a great example of a homemade and really, really effective learning piece.
Physics. I said physics, not psychics. Really?
So I just touched on some of the more obvious uses of video within learning. Now I want to cover some of the less obvious examples. A show reel or a promo is where a sequence of screens is put together using video editing software and some special effects to create something that's quite engaging and dynamic. This might be used, for example, to promote a course before it's launched within an audience group. The voice and pen approach, also known as the whiteboard approach, is where you watch an illustrator draw objects on the screen, and then timed audio narration is then added to that sequence to convey what the key learning messages are. This is often speeded up as well to provide a bit of impact. A very similar approach to voice and pen is the paper cutout approach, where paper cutouts of objects are placed on the screen and moved around to create a scene or sequence. And again, this is usually timed with audio narration or music. Another approach using video animation is kinetic typography, where a mixture of text is used to express different ideas, and the text is animated around the screen using additional support visuals to get the concepts across. And it's worth pointing out that some of these techniques may be combined together to create a really nice, unique solution.
Liked the endless script reviews often associated with e-learning projects. They also told us they found it really difficult to visualise the end result.
So to sum up, I just wanted to reflect on what all of these different techniques mean for the 21st century learning designer. So clearly they're going to have to brush up on their story writing skills, especially if they're creating drama using video techniques. They'll also need to be thinking about creating and planning good storyboards. And then of course there's the casting and direction, so ensuring that you've got the best actors for your shoot, and then even going along to the studio and directing that shoot. So thanks very much for listening. If you would like more information, please contact us, and there's some details on the screen here. And also, if you have any other ideas around subjects for our webcast, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much.